afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Borel Fire. I am the director for Kern County Public Health. Thank you for joining us today. I am sorry that we're meeting under these conditions, but I am so incredibly grateful that the state has approved our request for phase 2 debris and ash removal, and that is what we are here to discuss today. Please make sure that you have 3 handouts with you. We are going to go through these handouts. One of them is the right of entry form, which we are going to go in depth on. We have many copies of this form, so please feel free to use the one that you have with you right now as simply notes writing on the different sections. We will happily give you another copy, or you can access that form online as well. So please feel free to scribble all over it, write on it as the meeting happens so that you can remember things and fill out the form. In the right of entry form, there's also a back section that has multiple pages for notes. So if you'd rather just take your notes all in one area, there are those multiple pages available to you for notes. Another form is frequently asked questions. We're going to go over a lot of the content of the frequently asked questions document, but that way as you leave, you have this document with written answers to some of the questions that you may have available to you. And then there's also the third form, which is an infographic about what phase 2 is. We will also be going over this document in this meeting. So all documents will be covered in this meeting, but we wanted to make sure you had something to take away with you to refer back to as you're working through this process. For those of you that are joining us online, please make sure that you remain muted. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat. We are going to have a questions and answers portion for the meeting. We will save that for the end so that you guys get a full comprehensive review of the presentations. And then we're happy to stay and answer any questions that you may have. If you have not signed in with us, please make sure that you do. Some of the information that we have available through public information limits us and our ability to contact you guys and get you information quickly. And so having your phone number and your email address helps us get information out to you easier, and we need that through the sign up. So if you haven't signed in with somebody, please find somebody to sign in with, or there's a QR code on this slide where you can use your phone and use your camera, scan the QR code and sign in. For those of you that are joining us online, please make sure that you sign in so that we have your information. This meeting is also being recorded, so everything we talk about will be saved in the recording and it will be posted to our website, kernpublichealth.com, under the Returning After a Wildfire section. So you can access this information over and over and over again as you're working through this process. And then finally, I want to make sure that we all introduce ourselves. We have a robust team that is here to provide presentations and information about what is to come under this process. And so I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves and the different agencies that they represent. So again, my name is Borel Fire. I'm the director with Kern County Public Health, and then we'll just start with the back row right here.
Jacob Clayton, code compliant. Jacob Clayton, code compliant. Michael Fisher, code compliance.
Joanne Corolla, Cal OES Inland Region Response. Good afternoon, Julie Murillo, Kern OES.
Good afternoon, Dave Lee, Kern County Public Works, Solid Waste Division.
Good afternoon, Alex Roy, Kern County Public Works, Road Maintenance.
Dennis Van Buren, Kern County Planning, Division Chief Program Kurgan.
Amy Roberts is the Director of Public Health.
Taylor Partica, Cal OES Debris Operations.
Addison Elliott, Cal OES Debris Operations.
Bobby St. Calvin, Debris Operation.
Emily Wilson, National Weather Service.
Hi, I'm Chris Matarocia, the Science and Operations Officer for the National Weather Service in Hanford.
Virginia Armstrong, Kern County, OES.
Noah Berger, Building Inspection County.
And then there's a few people that are also joining us online that are going to provide presentations, and you will meet them when they join us. There's 2 more people here.
Brody Saline, Kern County Environmental Health Division Chief, Public Health.
I'm Jeffrey Marshall. I'm with Kern County Environmental Health Director for Environmental.
Right, next slide, please. Okay, and I'm just going to cover a brief agenda of what this meeting is going to entail. And we are going to start with a review of the BEAR and the work reports, and then go right into a phase 1 overview. So phase 1 is what we're currently in. We're going to talk a little bit about what that phase looks like and where we're at. And then what is phase 2 and when it will begin. And then going in depth into the right of entry, or the ROE as we call it, and that form and why it's needed. That's going to take up a majority of this meeting, going through that. And then really the ROE pickup and submission. So if you decide you're going to do this form online, we're going to talk about what that looks like. There's a couple of different locations where you can drop these forms off once they're completed. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to provide you with a lot of important contact information as you are filling out your ROE. We are here to help you, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us through that contact information that we're going to give you. And then finally, we're going to close with questions and answers at the end. I know you guys have a ton of questions, and that is the whole reason we are here. But we're going to ask if you can hold off on asking your questions until the very end so that we can get through all of this really dense material and then really take the time to go through your questions and give you thorough answers at the end. And so that is what the meeting is going to entail. And with that, we're going to go to the next slide, and there is going to be an online presentation.
Hey, thank you so much. My name is Derek Bays. I'm with Cal OES, and I'm the geologist for the OES watershed team. So I'm going to start by talking about some post-fire hazards that we typically see immediately after a wildfire. Can you guys hear me?
Can you try speaking again?
Hey, can you hear me? You got me?
Yeah, I think we're good.
We're good? Okay, cool. So like I said, my name is Derek Bays with the OES watershed team. I want to talk to you guys about some post-fire hazards. We work very closely with the WERT, which is the Watershed Emergency Response Team, and the BEAR team. So WERT is the state responsibility area team that assesses for post-fire hazards. And that is comprised of California Geological Survey and CAL FIRE. So they will go out afterwards, after a fire. They've already been out, they've deployed. They've taken a look at USGS debris flow hazard modeling. They've looked at how severely the soil was burned across the burn scar, and they have identified certain areas that are at risk, as well as how much rain and what amount of time is required to produce increased flow runoff events. So one of the big hazards with burn scars is that there are several factors that increase how much water will run off during a rainfall event. So the vegetation that's been burned, that is typically an impediment to rainfall. It slows down the flow of water, but all the vegetation's been burned away. So there's nothing stopping that water from building more rapid momentum, more energy. And additionally, the soil experiences a phenomenon known as hydrophobicity, which is just a big word that means it doesn't absorb water. So the water will beat up on the surface instead of absorbing down into the soil, which combined with the burn off of vegetation greatly increases the amount of runoff you'll see during a rainfall event. So that's kind of what we want to make sure everybody's aware of and identify a couple hazards. The first thing is I want to talk about the thresholds that were identified that could trigger one of these flash flood or debris flow events. So the work team, in coordination with the BEAR team, which we'll have U.S. Forest Service talk about the federal post-fire hazard assessment. We have Todd Ellsworth, who'll be speaking after me. But the state assessment team and the federal assessment team work very closely together, along with National Weather Service, to identify how much rain will cause a rapid runoff event, such as a flash flood or a debris flow. And the thresholds have been identified as follows. I have it up here on this table that I stole from, I stole these slides from the WERT closeout presentation. But in a 15-minute period of time, if 0.2 inches of rain falls, that could trigger an event. Same thing if we receive 0.3 inches of rain in 30 minutes or 0.4 inches of rain in 60 minutes. So I know that might not mean a ton to people that don't regularly look at, thunderstorm potential or high intensity rainfall events. But these thresholds are very sensitive. Typically, when we see burn scars, we're looking at, usually over, 0.6 to 1 inch an hour is usually what we're looking at for the 60-minute window. Here we're seeing 0.4 inches, which is, it is very sensitive. And I do think that it's important that the community as a whole understands that it's not going to take a massive rainfall event to have some of these flood consequences propagate downstream into Havila Canyon and some other areas. Next slide, please.
You bring that speaker in the middle of a room, you hear it better.
He can't move.
No, but if you hear it, they can't hear it either.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of the general observations. The Havila Canyon area is an area of primary concern just based on the amount of drainages that go through it, as well as the proximity of residences and infrastructure to some of these drainages that have large burned watersheds. I think the big takeaway I want people to understand here is that if you look upstream and you're seeing burned hillsides, that stream is not going to behave like it typically would during a rainfall event. It's going to bring down a lot more water than you're used to seeing, and it's going to happen very quickly. We're talking about short duration, high intensity rainfall events. You want to try to stay away from drainages. There are definitely, multiple areas throughout the burn scar that could have, that we anticipate it's likely that roads will overtop, whether by floodwaters or actual debris flows, which a debris flow is essentially a flash flood that can carry sand, gravel, rocks, boulders, and they can be very destructive. So that's why we want to make sure that we're communicating these hazards effectively. There are evidence of debris flows having occurred in the past. We know that we did have some in previous fires, rainfall following previous burns. So we know this area is susceptible to it, which is why the thresholds are reflecting a more sensitive threshold for these events to occur. Next slide, please. The one area that I really wanted to call out, I know I mentioned Havila Canyon specifically, but really Caliente Bodfish Road through Havila Canyon has been identified as a very high risk. We call it a value at risk, which really just means anything that we care about that could potentially be impacted or damaged by a flash flood or debris flow event. Caliente Bodfish Road, really from north of town to south of town, has several drainages that go through it that definitely have potential to overtop the road in several places. So this can mean a couple things. It can be hazardous to those that are actually on the road driving. If you see standing water or you see these flows starting to come through, don't try to go through it. The other component to this is that it could actually block off the road for an extended period of time, and blocking it with mud, debris, boulders, I think we've seen evidence of debris flows in the area that are mobilizing boulders up to 6 feet in diameter. So it is very possible that these roads could be completely impeded, and that would it would make it challenging for residents to evacuate if needed. There is a concern of potentially the road being trapped at both ends of town or two different sections of town, and that could anybody in between those two blockages would have a hard time getting out. So that's something that we wanted to call out. It's something the work team identified. But I think as a community, this is the hazard that most affects residents as a whole. So something that we definitely wanted to make sure that we socialize so that everybody knows, kind of what to look out for. But that covers everything that I wanted to go over on this. Actually, except for one more thing, I do want to let everybody know that Cal OES, in coordination with National Weather Service Hanford, which is the local forecast office that covers this region, we do monitor incoming weather very closely. Whenever we have significant storm events, think like Hurricane Hillary last year or Hurricane K the year before, we'll open up our state operations center, and we will be actively monitoring these potential flash flood and debris flow risks. And we do our best to coordinate and communicate these potential specific issues to county leadership, county emergency management, so that they can, effectively put together evacuation plans or notification systems. So that's an important piece that I want to touch on. For the county, National Weather Service Hanford is going to be your best friend. So make sure that you're plugged in with them as much as possible, because they have their ear to the ground on these issues. They'll be the best estimator of the severity of incoming storm events, and that's going to help you in messaging towards the locals. So that's a super important relationship that we want to make sure is locked in. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to our federal partners. I talked a lot about the state watershed emergency response team. I'm going to hand it over to Todd Ellsworth, who leads the federal version, U.S. Forest Service BEAR team. Take it away, Todd.
Okay, thank you. I'm Todd Ellsworth. I was the burned area emergency response team leader for the Borel Fire. And I think we
Get the next slide, please.
Yes. Yeah, so thank you for inviting me and talking about the BEAR process and a post-fire recovery process with everybody. And thank you, Derek, for setting the stage for this discussion. So just real quick, the federal burned area emergency response program is we try to, we do a very rapid assessment, and we try to identify immediate threats on national forest lands in coordination with the work team, other federal entities, county, state entities. It's we don't do this in a vacuum, of course. Of course, the highest priority is assessing threat to human life and safety, and then looking at property and infrastructure and critical and natural cultural resources on the national forest. And if we do find threats to those values at risk, then we develop a response plan and try to take actions to help mitigate that. We can't stop things from happening necessarily, as Derek pointed out, but we try to manage that risk, and part of managing that risk is also communicating our results with everybody, like we're doing here, and with partners during the assessment. So next slide. Just real quick, again, it's a rapid assessment process. We generally get started, when before the fire is contained. Usually we get a team together with about 50-60% containment. We start doing our assessment. Like Derek pointed out, we start identifying some of the critical values and working with the county and other people, states, other entities to identify what might be at risk, both on federal land and non-federal land. We do an all lands approach to this. We generally, get a satellite image that helps us identify where some of the potential post-fire, large amounts of post-fire erosion might happen, and working with U.S. Geological Survey Service to identify debris flow risks. Again, we try to do this as an all lands approach. And we assess those threats, where some of the critical areas are, flood source areas, high erosion risk, high areas of peak flow and increased sedimentation, areas that might have a higher debris flow risk. And again, sharing that information and sharing our expertise with lots of other people to try to understand and characterize post-fire watershed response, because that's really what we want to communicate to everybody, what that might be. As Derek pointed out, some of the hot spots that we found in the Borel Fire. So we evaluate that, and then based on that evaluation, we develop a response plan. And for the Borel Fire, we did our bear report. We got that into our regional office, and we got approval for it. And we did that all within about 2 weeks. So we want to make sure that areas that are at high risk, that we take appropriate action as quickly as we can. And right now, the forest is developing their implementation strategies and working on doing implementation right now, which includes doing some road stabilization work, trail stabilization work, removal and stabilization of burn materials on the national forest, and in the spring, looking at noxious weeds, invasive weeds, and trying to address that, among other things. And that's sort of the emergency response bear process. And we have a few other types of programs, like burned area rehabilitation, the BAR program, which is the sort of the next step, which we look at doing some additional road trail work, additional stabilization work, and additional maybe starting some tree planting and some of those types of things. So one of the critical parts of the strategy is, like Derek pointed out, continued coordination with the National Weather Service, the county, Cal OES, the work team, all the agencies responsible for first responders, Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, before, during, and after storm events. So the Forest Service is a key partner in those and integrated into all those discussions. Okay. That's what I have.
Next slide, please. Excellent. I'll take it from here. Todd, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for giving us a platform to talk about some of the work that's going on. My name is Dominic Mezzatesta. I am a program manager with Cal OES's Watershed Mitigation, Coordination, and Outreach Unit. Did want to kind of touch on some work that is going to be kicking off next week within the Borel Fire burn scar perimeter. We find post-fire, unfortunately, when it comes to debris removal, there is a window of time where, should we get precipitation events, we do not want toxins, contaminants mobilizing, moving into nearby waterways. Should we get a heavy precipitation event, we find that things may flush into nearby drinking water systems, streams, creeks, rivers, whatever have you. And Cal OES likes to take a holistic approach when it comes to the debris removal process, and doing as much as we possibly can to shore up every single debris field, parcel with structural debris that we feel poses a risk to a nearby watershed or something of importance to the county or the folks living there. So one of the activities that Cal OES engages in to protect the environment as much as possible post fire is something that we call a watershed protection mission, where we will deploy teams from various state agencies to implement what we call emergency protective measures around debris to try to contain as much of the nasty heavy metal, asbestos, whatever have you, on the site and free of nearby streams and waterways, doing as much as we can in the interim to make sure that we're protecting the environment. Cal OES has been working very closely with Kern County, who has been amazing partners on this, and we are gearing up to start this work next Monday. So something we wanted to socialize to the county and the folks still in the area is that you will be seeing work crews from the California Conservation Corps installing some of these protective measures: straw wattles, compost socks, silt fences. These sorts of protective measures, again, are going to be utilized to capture, contain, and filter as much of the contaminants that you might find on a debris site, all in the spirit of protecting the environment as much as possible. The work is slated to be wrapped up by the end of next week, and it is at no cost to the county or any property owners. It is something that Cal OES will be doing from cradle to grave. So if you see us, don't be alarmed. Something that we're coordinating very closely with the county on, and should there be any additional questions, we are here. So thank you.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Georgiana. I'm with the Office of Emergency Services, and I'm gonna be real quick. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of our Ready Kern program. We have brochures outside. That's the county's emergency notification system for people who register for this. It is free to register. There is no cost. We promise we will not spam you with information. We do not sell your information to third parties. And the only time we use the Ready Kern system is if there is public safety information that needs to go out to a specific community. I want to also make sure that people understand that when we give those alerts and warnings, oftentimes they're for instance that we can see building or coming. If water is starting to flow, you're going to see this before you could get a Ready Kern message. So if you're ever in a situation where your little sense is saying, I don't feel good about this, you are the best person to figure out what those actions should be. Our role at the county level for Ready Kern is we want to make sure that we will be mirroring any kind of alerts and warnings from the National Weather Service, because the fallout from this will be weather driven. So if you have not signed up for Ready Kern, we do have brochures out there, and we would be happy to help you do that, and we do suggest it. Thank you.
I know somebody said, what if we have a watershed question? The team is going to remain online to answer those questions at the end, okay? And then National Weather Service, we're going to have you up real quick, and then we're going to move into phase one.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting us. I just want to say that on behalf of everybody in the room and the National Weather Service in Hanford, we really feel for all of the loss and impacts to your lives that Borel Fire has already created. Our main goal in this is to prepare you and to keep you safe for any thunderstorms or any rainfall that is coming with a typical winter storm, by working hand in hand with our partners at Kern County Office of Emergency Services and your local first responders, again, to get the word out when dangerous weather is coming. I've been at the National Weather Service in Hanford for 10 years. I have never seen a more dangerous situation in terms of the very small amount of rainfall that can lead to an avalanche of mud, trees, rock, debris, or other items that can totally destroy a roadway or a home. And I'm not just saying that to scare anybody, but I want to alert everyone as to how dangerous this situation is. One of the ways that you can stay in touch with the weather 24/7, 365 is through NOAA weather radio. I know cell service is a struggle in a lot of parts of this community. If you buy a NOAA weather radio, it will alert you very loudly, even in the middle of the night, and wake you up if there is heavy rainfall or rainfall that is heavy enough to cause one of these mudslides or debris flow.
Why don't you give us one of those radios? We don't have any, we lost it in the fire. We don't have any to get one.
I'm sorry to hear that, sir. We can definitely talk more about NOAA weather radios in the future. That's a great point. One thing I wanted to say to all of you too is that it can take only about a half an inch of rain in an hour's time in order to create one of these catastrophic flash flood situations. Those types of storms happen every year. We're not looking for a storm that happens only once every 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. This is something that happens every year and can happen multiple times in 1 year. So we want everyone to understand the urgency of that. Our website is weather.gov/Hanford. You can go there for more information. Ready Kern will distribute our watches, warnings, and advisories to keep you up to date so that you can make the best decisions to keep you and your property safe.
You don't want to make it safe, you gotta put some barriers up. You already know what's gonna happen. Well, you already put some preventive measures out there already. You already know what's gonna happen. After you're not putting barriers up to block the house, what's left?
We understand your concern, sir. And
It's not my concern, it's a fact.
it is a fact. That's what we
You guys act like you're worried about it, but you're not doing anything because I've been talking about it.
We have to talk about it before we do something about it.
I'll tell you right now, if you put the barriers up, it'll stop having happening. You don't have to talk about it. You know, it's plain sight, but it's logical.
Hey, come on, talk to me today.
And you don't interrupt what I'm saying. No, you're business. I'm not talking to you. Yeah. You're talking to everybody. That's right. I'm talking to everybody. Don't talk.
So
What to do, man?
we thank you for the feedback, and we are going to do everything we can, all of us join together, working among agencies, communicating in a similar way so we all understand the seriousness of this situation. This is going to be a major focus of our office during the next several months as far as rainfall and what it could potentially cause. So I want all of you to know that even though this may be considered a smaller community, we do not look past any of our communities for anybody that we're responsible for. So I just wanted to get that message across. We thank you for your feedback and for inviting us. And I'm glad to take any questions on behalf of the thing.
All right, I'm going to invite Baylor up from Cal OES to talk about baseline.
Hello, everybody. My name is Baylor Parka. I'm with Cal OES Debris Operations. Myself, not just a copier here, will be your project managers for the state of the debris cleanup. So it's going to touch base on the 2 phases that we have. So phase 1 is hazardous household waste removal. It's led by the Department of Toxic Control. 95% of your properties have already been addressed by DTSD. They remove both expenses. They mark out any areas of imminent concern. They'll empty eval paint tanks, chemicals, paints, solvents, anything that's of immediate on the surface threat. Once they visit your property, they'll mark your property with a white sign that says it's been visited, or basically what they've done. This is a crucial step for debris removal as a whole beginning. Okay, so now we'll move on to phase 2. Okay, so phase two, this is actual debris removal. It's broken up into 6 steps. And I'll talk to you guys, please. Give me the second one. Okay, so the first step is a site assessment. The site assessment team works in conjunction with your right of entry form. You'll see if you go through, go page that, it'll ask for kind of as much detail as you can provide us with what's on your property, septic tank, leaching fields, wells, things like that. This will go with the site assessment team, that they will actually systematically go out of your property, where the debris is, where the hazards are at, and be removed. The next is a asbestos abatement team. If there's any suspect asbestos, it would be marked and tested, just to be removed. Asbestos has to be handled its own way, and it's just so may be well. So once the asbestos statement is completed, we are on to the actual physical debris removal. We invite and by the way, you will all be in communication with our teams before the debris removal actually starts. We will call you every step of the way. We will call you when we're about to start the removal within 48 hours or so. If you need more lead time, please work with you directly. Whatever we work with everybody. Okay, so there's no generic for this. So debris removal, your debris will actually be physically removed. It looks similar to this would be the end result of that in a sense. The waste streams are broken up metals, concretes, actual action debris, and then soils. So we will scrape just a couple inches, 3 inches from underneath where the actual structure was to get out any heavy metals or even maybe reach the soil. So we don't have to go ahead. Okay. After that, we want the soil sampling team come in. They will have the soils just to make sure that they get all the heavy metal tankings reached in there. And this would include underneath vehicles, things like that. Just know we won't remove anything that didn't have a structure on top of it. So if you had if you have a driveway, your vehicle burning, we would just cut out the portion of the vehicle. We're not going to remove the driveway. We're not going to remove sidewalks, anything that's unnecessarily removed. We don't want to do that. Okay?
Will you take the vehicle?
We will take the vehicle, yes, yes.
What happens if we have like a couple vehicles that burn and we don't want you to take them? We won't take them.
Oh, that's very much it. We will get as much history real quick. We'll be back. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, thank you guys. So okay, once the flows come back all clear, we'll if there's any hazardous trees that we imminently threaten the right of way. We can touch on this a little bit more. It's not as much of a concern in Kern County here, but we would then apply erosion control, which is just let's see if this is kind of a grass mat that's straight on to where your structure was, just to make erosion not happen anymore for the campus. The title stuff, basically at the end of it, we do a walk around with the county official and our civil engineers to ensure that the property is indeed clean to our standards and satisfaction. It'll be signed over and hand back to the county.
Thank you. I'm now going to invite Jeffrey Marshall up to talk about what is an ROE and why it's needed. Okay.
He said 6 steps, but there are only 3 steps. Assessment, abatement, debris removal, soil sampling, hazardous tree erosion. Oh, sorry, about 10 steps, I was going.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Marshall, and I'm with Environmental Health. Also here with Brody Sling, and he's with Environmental Health. So today, we want to give you a little bit of information on what an ROE is, why it's needed. We're also going to go through the ROE. So you have that in front of you, go through it page by page. So what is an ROE? So an ROE is a revenue. The purpose of the ROE is to enroll you in a debris and hazard tree removal program. It also allows the estate and also allows the crews to come in and remove debris from the property. And that debris can be stuff like burnt vehicles, destroyed structures, hazard trees, or trees that could impact structures on site and also that are out there. So this program is voluntary, and also it has no out-of-pocket cost to you. So in front of you right here, you see a checklist. This may not apply to everyone. The goal of this checklist is to allow you to go down and look at supporting documents that you may need as with the RO. If you have a trust, for example, as or an LLC, then you may need additional documentation and your right to enter your ROE.
A lot of this stuff has been turned up, didn't it? I'm just asking.
Right, and we can talk more about that after we're done. So, a right of entry, you need one per property. If you own multiple properties, then you'll need to do one for each property. Also, a little bit later, we'll talk to you a little bit more about how you spend right of entry. So, one thing that we will need everyone when you submit an MRE is a government ID. So that would be like a license or passport.
The ROE would be done online, right?
Yes, yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the presentation. We'll have someone that will discuss that. Just give them options where you get it to you. Maybe that's an online there.
So this is just a packet we're filling out for now, and then we'll have to go online and find the actual.
No, you can actually, we can talk a little bit more at the end, but you'll be able to actually sign it online or DocuSign. Or you can fill this one out, sign it, and you can provide it to our office. So, next slide, please. So, page one. So, page one is the location where you can put your name, contact information, email addresses, phone numbers. If you have additional phone numbers and emails, please put those in. It'll help us out if we have to reach out to you. Also, if you have multiple property owners, we'll ask that you put each property owner on it as well. And then finally, there's APN that will ask for. So that's an assessor's parcel. It's an identifier for your property parcel. So there's a few ways that you can obtain that number. One option is to go on the Kern County Assessor's website. There's a search engine on there, and you can put in your address or what they call a assessor's tax number, which you can find on your property tax bill, and you can look for that APN number. You can also find that if you have it on your bill. So, on page two. So page two at the top of mentions authorization. So this includes the authority that property owner you're giving to execute to start this auditing. So in that, please make sure you put the all the property owners, trustee, if you have an authorized agent that's signing on your behalf, their name go there. When it comes to the ROE itself, it is active for 18 months or until the entire project is completed. And then at the bottom of that, it breaks down some of the activities that we heard earlier today. So page 4. So insurance reimbursement. So if you have insurance or you don't have insurance, this program can still be offered to you. But if you do have insurance, then one of the things that you'll need to turn over to the county would be the insurance that you would have for removal of furniture structures, removal of vehicles, removal of hazard trees that may be on your property. When you fill out this portion, make sure that the information is as clear and as clearly as possible. I worked during the Houston fire in 2016, and we received a lot of ROEs. And the clearer you are with that, the easier it is for us to be able to contact them internally to phone numbers, claim numbers, they're all very helpful.
If we don't have insurance, do you just write none?
So we're about to get to that one. It'll be the next page. Yes. Then the other thing is if you have an insurance company and they want to reach out to us, they can provide us with that information with and so on. And then also with insurance, we would ask for copies of your insurance policy.
Where's it for dark?
So we can talk more about that afterwards, but if you do have the phone number or contact information of your insurance company, you'll be able to contact them and obtain those documents. We can talk more about that process. Alright, so the question that came up was if you don't have insurance. So if you don't have insurance, again, the program can be offered to you. In this section on page 5, you would just sign. So each property owner would sign. You're acknowledging that you don't have homeowners insurance or vehicle. And that's another thing. If you have a vehicle on site that did have insurance and there was money set aside in that insurance to clean that vehicle up, we would be after that as well. The other thing that's on page 5 is if you sell your property during the cleanup. So if you sell the property during the cleanup and you haven't received what we call a cleanup certificate, then what would happen in that process is you would need to fill out what we call a property transfer affidavit, which we have available and provide to you. Then once we do that, the new owner would then have to fill out another ROI with us. Right, so page 5, and then it'll go into 6. Page 5 has information on releases and liability waivers. So by signing this ROE, you are acknowledging that there is a risk of damage that can be caused by the crews that go out there. If by chance you go out there after it's done and you notice damage and you think it's due to negligence by the crews, you can't file a complaint. And there is an email. And you can email us. So at the bottom of page 5, you have the ability to withdraw from the program. If you do that, you just have to be aware that there may be reimbursements that may need to be provided to the state if you decide to withdraw. Also, if you decide to clean the property up yourself, during the Kern fire, we did have a few people that wanted to do that. And if you do that, there's an application process where you fill out an application which we have through our department, who we give to you, which breaks down who you have to come out to do the cleanup, where those wastes go. And then after that, we would then provide you with a closure certificate. But I do want to say this, during Kern fire, the average cost we noticed for cleanup was between $30,000 to $40,000 of property. I've been told recently that the cost is as high as $50,000 of property. So please be mindful of that. Decide how you want this up. And then there's also going to be county standards that we'll have in place on what is necessary. And we want these standards because if you have a neighbor next to you, for example, that is having safety, and then they're doing it their own, we want to make sure that it's consistent, that they're meeting those same standards, that they're testing it the same way that the state is doing it. Right, so page 7. So page 7 is where you would be signing, acknowledging that everything that's documented is correct. We do ask that again, if you do have the documents, if under a trust, an LLC, that you provide those documents. If this form has to be signed by a agent that you have representing you, you need to make sure that it's no. I'm going to pass it over to Brody. Next page.
So this next portion goes into the property information and general information. As you can see, it goes into the street address where you guys are located, zip code. As Jeff mentioned earlier, it talks about the APN. That's very important. And then goes into the destroyed structures. As you notice, it says that the destroyed structure has to be at least 120 square feet or larger. And if it is currently occupied. And then down below that, it asks you what type of structure you guys have on your property, whether it's the houses, mobile homes, garages, sheds, barns, storage containers, or anything else. So the more description you guys put, the better. Whether you guys think it's a small piece, a large piece, just put it in there. It helps everybody later on. Next page continues with the structure information, the year it was constructed, and then it asks about basic information about the property, like if there's a basement, a cellar, most people are on septic. If you guys have any leach field, if you guys have any water tanks, wells, cisterns, spray box on the property, if that came up earlier, but this is where you put it with the description as well. And then if there was any business on the property, you put that as well. And then down below, it asks you guys to please put any description in or details that you guys think people go to your guys' site for the assessment. So any kind of stream crossing, easements, neighbors. Also asks you to describe how to access the property, and if you guys have any kind of locked gates or if there's a bridge or animals on site. And then finally, it asks if you guys have battery backup power sources. So specifically, like lithium-ion batteries or solar. And then from there, it goes to the vehicles, which I believe somebody asked a little bit earlier. So this is the section where you're going to put the make, model, year, the VIN. VIN is extremely helpful. If you guys don't have the VIN, just put unknown. But it is very helpful for everybody if you can find it. And then if you would like to exclude certain vehicles, whether it's a car, a truck, a motorcycle, an ATV, a tractor, this is where you would mark the box to exclude it. The state will do their best to honor your request. And when they go onto the site, they'll do their assessment and see if that is something they can leave. They also might have to move the vehicle to clean it or what's underneath it. So even though you asked for it to stay, you might notice that it was moved to either clean it or the soil below it, it might be contaminated. Yeah, next slide. And then goes into the special instructions. So anything you guys might think is pertinent for the contractors during the assessment or to access your property, or items you guys would like the contractors to look out for. I know jewelry, safes, anything on that you guys would like for us to look out for. This is where you put it. And like everything else, the more detail, the locations, last time you saw it, anything you think would help, just put it on here. They'll keep an eye out for it. Put it to the side so you guys don't have to go back onto the property yourselves. They'll handle it. And then I believe this is the last part of it. It's a property sketch. They asked that you guys just do a quick sketch to show the destroyed structures and the vehicles, but also include any septic tank, leach field, wells, access from the main road, any kind of hazards that you guys might think they might come across, just for safety purposes. Just please put it on there. And then boundaries of your guys' property. And then anything else that you guys would like them to leave on the property. So if you guys have any other equipment or items that you want them to leave and not to touch, put it on here as well. And like the other items, they'll do their best to honor you guys' request.
So before we actually start to bring out your property, oh, sorry, I'm not locking up, sorry.
Just touch on that real quick. So before we start to prepare your property, our assessment team will do a 360 walk. So you'll be contacted 48 hours before, if you can. And again, if you can't take 48 hours from now, we will work the schedule with you. So you can be there if you'd like to be. So we'll do a walk of the property. So if you can be available, please be there and walk with our assessment team and point out anything that maybe we didn't see or, hey, be careful when you're coming through here. That all comes into play. It's a huge, benefits to the debris team as you do anything in your property you don't want damage or whatnot. We encourage and we like it could be there beneficial. So just so you will be contacted, we will not do anything that's without you being okay for your Thank you.
Okay, and then Amy, we'll go over the pickup and submission portion.
Good afternoon. Just to touch on something that Jeff mentioned, legibility is really important. The clearer the information is and the easier it is for us to read, the quicker we'll be able to go through our approval process. If we have a hard time reading names, parcel numbers, contact information, it'll slow down the process because we'll have to contact you to make sure that we have the correct information and we're not putting you on the wrong parcel. A couple ways to turn in your completed ROE, and a completed ROE is going to be one that's completely filled out, has all the necessary signatures, and has all the supporting documentation as appropriate. And the deadline to turn those in will be October 4th. The quicker and more completed ROEs we get in, the sooner the processes can start. The completed ROEs can be turned in person at the Department of Human Services, located at 7050 Lake Isabella Blvd, Suite 130. That's in the county complex, just up the road. You can drop those off at their office. You can also drop those off in person at our environmental health office at 2700 M Street, Suite 300. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with the exception of a county holiday. You can also scan and email completed ROEs and those supporting documents to wildfirecleanup@kerncounty.com. And after this meeting, we will also have available our ROE on our website at kernpublichealth.com. You'll click on the, apologies, can't remember what the button's called. The returning home after a wildfire, if you click on that, it will take you to the link and you'll be able to fill out that PDF and submit it via DocuSign, and that will come directly to our wildfire cleanup email. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, so we have set a deadline of ROE submission for October 4th. So if you can please try to get us your ROEs by October 4th, that would be extremely helpful. However, the sooner we get a majority of the ROEs, the sooner the state can start working on these properties. And so the sooner the better, but October 4th is the deadline at this point. And with that, we are going to open it up for questions and answers. All of us will be trying to tag team answering your questions so we can get you the most comprehensive answers possible. And we will start with you.
All right, so on my insurance, it's California Fair Plan, and I don't think that there's.
Can you bring the microphone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
On my insurance, I don't think there's a separate line for debris removal. So, well, two questions. If there is that line, say $3,000, right? But then there's additional coverage that we build in. I would only pay the $3,000 for the traffic, right? No, I just have one more question.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so the answer to that question, yes, it would just be that $3,000 that it's line in. I suspect that my insurance policy, I'll find out when I go back home, is part of what you're going to larger category. But there may not be like a price on there, right? It could just be something like, it's so much money to rebuild, right? But it just says to rebuild. So how does that work? And then one more, if I choose not to rebuild, just take the money to buy something else in another area or something. Do I owe something? Yeah. Okay. So that was two more questions.
So just to clarify, so the question was, like a lump sum policy, that just like $1,000, there's no line item for removal or anything like that. So every insurance company is different. obviously we worked with all of their, say, I have to see your insurance company, because if there's no line item for debris removal, and there's no allocated cost to set aside for it, then it's really, I would have to, you'd have to look at your insurance company. I can't give you guys for that. Typically, the policies that have a line item for debris removal or hazardous waste removal or tree removal, that's the only allocated portion that we would take, but just a little policy, I'm not percent. If you're
It's California.
I can see it. Let's see. I apologize against you. I'm not, I know I need to watch information, so,
But it's just, it's, I read this right, it looks like it's after you rebuild, the amount that's left could go, is what goes to the county. So that was my third question. If I don't rebuild, then. I mean, that's what it says in the document, after rebuilding, any money left over, it could possibly go to the county if it's part of the broader category. So if I don't rebuild, then.
I think that would be a question we'll have to sit and talk about. I think getting the insurance company involved would be key. When we were working on the Harrison fire, there were a lot of meetings with this insurance companies and government, how to go through that. But we don't have an answer yes yet for you. But if I get that, your contact information, you reach back out and stuff.
Yeah.
And some of these instances are gonna have to happen on a one-on-one basis once we have your ROE and your insurance paperwork, that we can sit down and go through some of these specifics that are, individualized or on a case-by-case basis.
What's the ROE? Is FEMA going to be involved at any time in the future here? I've been calling them, but they just haven't talked to me yet.
We don't.
On the Erskine fire, FEMA was involved.
Actually, we did not get a FEMA declaration for the Erskine fire. There was a different process that was used. The process, if there's a process that we go through before FEMA makes a decision, we have not received a definitive answer to that yet. I have to tell you that FEMA's decision to activate to respond is described as data-driven. And what they've described as the kinds of incidents they want to look at are 700 uninsured, destroyed primary residents. That's, I know. And I may have my own issues with setting a number like that, but it's not my decision to make. So we haven't heard a no yet, but I don't want to give anyone any false hopes. I think this is a long shot. I believe the state is still evaluating and trying to negotiate with FEMA to see if there's a way it can be worked out. But I would not pin my hopes on a FEMA response. And I'm sorry to give you that information.
Sorry, I kind of have a list of a lot of questions. So is phase 2 available to all residents who lost, even if they did not lose their home, but lost things on their property?
That's a great question. Actually, yes. I'm sorry, you have people online. Sure. I should.
So the question was, is phase 2 available for all residents affected by the fire, even though it was not their primary home? The answer is yes, as long as the structure is 120 square feet or bigger. That also includes if you just had a camper trailer or something like that was on your property, that qualifies as well. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I have a watershed question. For the watershed people, if we have wells on our springs on our property, are you going to be asking us where they are and looking at those?
Hi, this is
Hey,
Dom
this is,
with the
oh,
water.
you got Dom, go ahead.
Yeah. So our teams have actually already been out to every property within the burn scar to evaluate what materials we want to place where.
You can't hear you.
Can you speak a little louder, please?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So our teams have already actually been out and visited all the burned structures within the current perimeter. And we've already identified locations on each site where we feel these protective measures are appropriate. And that does include springs, ponds, wells, and all of that. We've already taken note of it. But if we do feel as though we're missing something, we're in constant contact with the county and can get that information from them. But if you do feel as though you have a unique situation that we may not have evaluated on the front end, I would socialize that with Geo, and she can pass that on to our teams. But we try to be as thorough as possible.
All right, I'm not gonna have Rhodes question. Okay, Rhodes question. How will we keep these crews driving 25 miles an hour in Havilah? My children's safety is a problem with the crews that are already there.
Obviously, we expect our crews to abide by the law.
They are not.
Our crews aren't out there yet. So
There's a lot of them.
you're probably talking about the tree crews, the guys are out there now getting on the trees. That's
One, everybody.
phase one.
Phase one, the people, they do drive pretty fast over
Okay.
there, because I do live on the roadway where it is.
I had to risk my life for my blind child yesterday.
Okay. Okay, well, that's, what we can, obviously, that's not tolerated by your contract with the state. So, I think you can, be able to get information on what vehicles are doing that or whatnot, or we address. So.
I did request the roads come out and replace our 25-mile-an-hour sign yesterday, immediately, but it's a huge problem. It's a problem, especially now that the road looks like it should be a freeway. 2 weeks before the fire, somebody crashed and it hit the ground and then it burned to the ground.
Hi, this is Alex Billy. I'm Public Works Program Maintenance. Our Assistant Director, Sam Hope, did receive a phone call and we did send our traffic crew. Should be going out there today, if not tomorrow, to check all the signs and add all those. In regards to speeding, probably have to reach out to the sheriff's office and the CHP, let them know to keep an eye out for all those. Unfortunately, those are not our contractors, so I'm gonna refer to the state in that.
Yeah, DTSC is the Department of Toxic Substance Control. They're their own state entity, so they're not a contractor under Cal. Yes, they're their own. So, but thank you for bringing to our attention. I will address.
What if we have neighbors who choose not to apply for phase 2, and which direction will phase 2 begin?
Which one says phase 2?
One, the debris action. Okay.
So, there's a process for not.
So if the neighbor decides not to participate, then if they want to do it themselves, there's still a process. There's an application process that they would go through us. They would have to tell us who's going to do the cleanup. They're going to have to do sampling, where the waste is going.
They don't want to do it at all, they just.
That's the question.
Yeah, one just, go.
So that, I believe we have code here.
That's my concern.
Again, Jacob Clayton, Code Compliance Supervisor. So we've had the discussion right now. We're more focused on assisting. What Jeffrey Marshall said, I want to reinforce, taking the opportunity for every resource that's offered to you. Each situation is unique. After all phases are complete, if there's somebody that is not complying, so code compliance would have to get involved, but we're not focused on that right now. You had no conversations of enforcement at this time. That's your question?
And then which direction will it start?
No direction. Are you talking to me?
Which direction?
Phase 2.
Where will we start? So great question. Great question. So actually, we work with the county to identify the priority parcels. At this juncture, the priority parcels are ones in the immediate threat of with the watershed identified. We want to obviously get those cleaned up so that after there's a debris flow or whatnot, it won't go through there. We don't just have one contractor, we'll have multiple contractors, excuse me, one company, but multiple crews out there working. So, we will focus certain crews on priority areas to get those addressed immediately and then have the other ones. And, we haven't actually discussed priority, like which area like that, but priority parcels right now will be ones in the watershed concern areas.
Yeah, I've got a few questions. First question, definition of a hazard tree.
Hazard tree?
Yeah.
Definitely find out and then a hazard. Yeah.
Right, yeah, so a hazard tree is, what, for the state program, a hazard tree is identified as a tree that is imminently threatening a public right of way or entity. So, it does not apply for public, or excuse me, does not apply for private roads. But any hazard tree that would fall onto a public right of way or public entity would be, identified by a track certified arborist, which is a tree risk assessment and qualified, arborist. The criteria is true. So it's, so the draw says 200% the height from the roadway. So, if you have a 100-foot tree, that's 150 feet away or 200 feet away, that would be a qualifying tree because it would be able to fall and maybe a branch would pop off or whatnot and hit the roadway. So 200% from the public right of way roadway would be the qualifying criteria. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Edison, we probably have private road, I'm on a private road, so we want to have the road. Edison is taking care of that. On the, whatever's under the power line or near the power line gets put down. Another question is, my understanding is as far as the taxes are concerned, that this has been a California emergency, but not a federal emergency.
The only assistance that is coming to the county at this point is what's called a fire management assistance grant. And all that does is it helps recoup some of the costs incurred by the responding agencies. So the only assistance that comes directly to constituents is if we were to get a presidential declaration of major disaster. That's what triggers FEMA.
No, it's not talking about FEMA, I'm talking about the taxes. But like, my understanding is it has not been declared a presidential emergency and we can only take tax deductions for a loss for California, for like California.
I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. We don't have the answer to that question right now, but we'll get back to you on that.
One more question, quick, because I have a loss. It was the seed train, so 3 trains are okay, it included in the thing.
Could you clarify what is the seed train, please?
Conex.
Oh, Conex box, yeah, yes, the Conex, it's all burned out on the inside, everything's destroyed, yes, it qualifies, it'll be removed. Apologize, I think I've already called that before.
So, the property we ended up gonna have was, it's in my brother's name, he's gonna be leaving overseas with 6 months of employment. He will be accessible through email, stuff like that, I don't know if I'll have to take some kind of, permission to sign things as you move forward, that's something we need to know. The other thing is, the house was not insured, the property was not insured there, he had a trailer that was insured, like a toy hauler travel trailer. His insurance company, through them, they wanna pay him, but they wanna pick it up, so is that something you guys have to do?
It's a great question.
Or can they come get it?
So,
And correlate with you how they do that?
yours is a unique situation. Typically, the insurance company would prefer us to clean it up because they don't have to pay out to come out and to remove it and all the stuff that goes with it. If they choose to remove it, they can. It just needs to be documented that either the number needs to be documented on a 642 form, California form. The state is destroyed. If we can work with you and your insurance company because typically they would prefer the state to do it.
So if you guys clean it up, then we can probably just deduct whatever that removal fee was from that policy. Yes, you guys.
That makes sense. Like I was like that, but I'm not sure how your insurance would want to do that. But for the actual removal of the toy hauler, we can absolutely work with that. they would, I would assume they would prefer.
That's not the same, they would agree to that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But if they want to remove it, they can. They can. I have a good question over here as well.
So on page 9 of this right of entry form, someone had already addressed that it gives things that you can exclude from things that you don't want to have taken from the property. But then back on page 2, it says the owner grants the government the right to determine to the government's sole discretion, which destroys structures, and that whole paragraph there, paragraph 3. So I just wanted to get some clarification of does the property or the homeowner have any say in what is taken or removed, or do we release all of our rights by signing this?
That's a great question. Okay, so the leaving objects on your property, particularly vehicles, ones a vehicle classic or something that is of value to you, emotionally, physically, anything like that. We work case by case with this. This is a public health hazard. Obviously, the fire and ash debris is toxic, and that's why we want to get it removed, obviously. It depends if you've got 10 things you want to leave or if you want to leave one thing. Like if there's a classic car, we'll wash it off, we'll pick it up, we'll put it on plastic somewhere else, we'll scrape underneath it. No questions asked. Again, I'm the project manager, along with Madison and Copy. We make those ultimate decisions along with our operations chiefs. So I know how it's written on there, but it's a case by case basis. If somebody wants to leave a vehicle, that we see no issues with that whatsoever, unless it's sitting in a waterway or something like that.
If you wanted to keep that, or is that not?
It would have to be, I'd have to see it, we'd have to see it. If it's typically if the inside's burned out, what was in it, that's another big factor. If it was completely empty, the bottom burned out, I mean, there's nothing in there, I would leave it to the operations chief. And again, when we contact you and we do a property walk with you, it's a case by case basis. But again, we have to see it kind of in the moment there. So believe me, we don't want to take anything that we don't want to, that you guys don't want us to take, obviously, but we just have a job to do as well. But case by case. So I know that was your question as well. And I've heard vehicles being left. So
My question is about Cal Fire that does a fire line through our property. They crushed a culvert while entering. They destroyed the roads. We don't have much ingress. As soon as the storms happen, it's going to knock out the access road. Is this going to be fixed?
I think that'd be public works question.
I think we'd end up depending on what road it is, public easement. I'm not sure.
Cal Fire went in there without asking us to destroy the damn property. Like, I mean, what's the deal like that? It should be fixed. The water's here coming down, the roads are going, will be destroyed. There's a perfectly scientific property and it goes through every goddamn road. You can't even drive through there.
I would imagine that I'd be the first to find from there.
And the fire department, of course, you got tired of girls' concept.
Unfortunately, I can't control that way.
So this whole thing, they don't stick any of the, I thought they got
we do the structure, creating the structure that burned. We just need the structure that burned in the areas that are affected by the fire. The burned areas by the fire. Yeah, good question. So in regards to erosion control or mitigation measures that are provide the debris cleanup program, we're not road repair contractors or anything like that. Our contractors will make sure that your roads are in the same shape or better, coming in and out. All roads are documented, private or public, as they egress in and out, removing the debris. But for the damage that in your particular situation, if the culvert is crushed and basically an asshole by a 10-wheeler, something like that, our contractors will put a crane mat or something down over the top, steel plates, anything to mitigate any further damage from occurring, but they won't. We just deal with the structural loss.
We're going to fix the problem. But you're saying we're just.
Well, I can't expect our contractors to repair something that they didn't damage, sir.
Why won't Cal Fire? I was talking to Cal Fire lieutenant. He said they have a crew that comes in and they fix everything that they did and make it look back to normal. But every time you try to talk to a government official, got a different story every time.
I understand. Okay, very fire. I apologize. I don't know what conversation you have with them, but.
What he's saying is that there are two different entities. No shit, I know that, but I know. I can understand. He's not.
Let me clear this up. I work with an incident management team, and in the finance section, there's a section called count and claims. He needs to get a hold of the incident management team that was working this fire and deal with common claims through, I don't know if it was a interagency fire or if it was a joint command, whatever it was, but there is a section in the finance that will handle just this under common claims.
I'm gonna ask this question for some other people who might be that could be here, but several of them want the debris from their residence removed, but they want to try and keep the foundation. So some of them, it's a concrete foundation, some of them, it's cinder block. They want to know if that's possible.
That's fair. Okay, so in regards to any property that's enrolled in the state debris removal program, the foundation that had a structure built on it, again, if it's just a foundation slab that had a simple carport from Home Depot on it or something, that won't be removed. It's a foundation with a structure that is physically had something built on it will be removed. It's basically an uncontrolled wildfire that burns over on top of a foundation. It literally destroys it. They can't be rebuilt on. I know there's the arguments that they can be tested, they can be whatnot, but the way our program is written and there will be removed. So that's a really good question. Thank you.
What about, south of my place is a chimney, brick and block that didn't burn. What about that stuff? Does that stay or what?
Okay, so chimneys will be removed, if it's still standing, there's some type of asbestos inside of it or whatnot, and it's hazard to our crews, so they're digging around where the structure was, so chimneys will be tipped over, and removed.
Did you have a question online as well? It says, can an HOA president of a community that lost 15 of 20 residences act as the agent for owners who have not been able to be contacted in many years? What can the community or HOA leadership do to ensure that all properties get cleaned up in phase 2?
Great question. In regards to acting as a liaison to the property owner, the answer is no. The property owner is, I guess we clarify the question. We fill out an ROE or as an agent for the owner. The answer is no. They would have to have a power of attorney for each property.
At that point, they would just have to call code compliance, correct?
Yes, if something wasn't cleaned up correct, that it would be code compliance at the very end. But even there's HOAs. So the HOA manager is not necessarily legally allowed to make decisions on their behalf. So, but it can be a conduit for us to work with to make sure that everybody in the association is taken care of.
If we touch some of our main structures, like we didn't lose our house, but we lost outbuildings, if we demolish those, will you guys still remove the debris?
Were they burned significantly? Or
Yeah,
just,
like the metal structure was completely mowed,
you don't have to demolish it. We would remove it for you. We would take that for you.
but if you guys are taking a long time to do it, can we move it from the area?
No, don't. I would say
Winter. Because I don't know what your timeline is, so am I gonna have 6 inches of snow on that and it's gonna become an additional hazard?
good question. So the answer is please do not remove any structure that's burned. We have to get the way the program is written is we contain the actual burn within the actual area where it's burned. If it's moved or uncontrolled now, we have no idea where it was in a sense. So we don't know where to soil sample, we don't know where to actively clean the property, make sure it's the public health has been the nuisance mitigated. So I would ask you please don't remove it.
We've already consolidated our debris because it's still on fire when we were home, so we put everything out. So that's already been done, and I know I'm not the only property owner who's done that. we're living out our home with 5 kids. We can't just like let everyone be. What I'm asking is if we've already done it, is it still gonna be taken care of? Or are we like,
But did you move it all around the property or is it just?
No.
It's like spot.
consolidated, it was stuff right next to the house?
It's a close here. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh.
Here first, and then I'm gonna go there. People we haven't heard.
So are splitting the same thing as foundation?
Yeah, this center blocks will be.
So it was a great question, Melania. So I have kids too, and I'm at home now, so I have a few burnt barbecues, I have a burnt vents and stuff. Am I able to just take that down and put it in the burn pile, so that way I could seclude it with like caution tape or something, so my kids are not touching it in the front yards?
Yeah, I would say do anything you need to do to mitigate the issues and concerns or.
It's not
For your kids, absolutely, yeah, and again, we haven't done any assessments on these properties, so.
As long as I have pictures of where everything was, that I'm able to show you. would that
So
be okay?
like a fence or anything like that, we typically wouldn't chase a fence down the road, so if you need to move, take the wood fence down or whatnot and move it over. Again, we haven't done assessments on any properties yet, so, there's always unique situations, but yes, you can take those down and you can move them. Like your bird barbecue grill, if you need to move it away from your house, that's totally fine. It's the, so DTSC problems are with your property, they need help in tank, they need to move any really.
Yeah, my properties.
Yeah, so that's fine, move that over there, it's.
Like you have a, like an estimated ETA, like when the finish date is.
So I don't have an ETA for the finish date, obviously, there's a lot of doing that, but our start date was going to be into mid October.
Okay.
We're crews on the ground, actually, permanent three. That is all dictated on how many RMEs we get as soon as possible, so we get a contractor on time. Staying here's the property, so yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, one of the structures that burned down on my property was the shed over top of my well. You say you're gonna take out all the foundation and everything.
Great question. So we do not touch wells. If you have a well, within a concrete foundation, our contractors would basically scrape off the top and depending how big the shed is, they would cut into it and make a 2x2x2 around your well, because we don't want to obviously mess with anything else like that. So yeah, if you have a well, we will not be if the well has burned off, we won't touch any of that. So.
My question is the watershed, we have a big one, 20 acres. And the field behind it, and if we get heavy rain, it's gonna go through. But it won't fall down the house the way we own structure, but it's gonna go down into the creek. Now, who's responsible for getting those culverts cleaned out before this happens?
So responsible.
That creek will swell. And
I can speak to the watershed portion of it. So watershed will be out next week with their crews. Typically it's the California Conservation Corps, work with them. You'll see the brown shirts. So you know it's them. They would put mitigation measures in place. The property's been identified as a super high risk area. And then as for the debris in the culvert, I would defer to the neighbors. It is for time.
If the culverts are on the public roadways, and we would be clearing those culverts out. If anything, as soon as summer's just about over, I would imagine we would be going out there the next month or two to start clearing out all the culverts. I believe we might identify at least 3 or 4 locations that would actually need to be cleared out at time. And then minimum to be inspected to make sure that they can take at least some amount of water.
I know one of those is my property too, and I think in the next month or two is kind of a little extreme because we could have rain just in the next few weeks.
I'll double check with our schedule, see if we can get them out this soon.
We don't.
This relates to a couple of other questions that were asked. So I have two properties. One of them, the house and everything is fine, but the well house, which somebody else was asking about, partially burned. It's only 64 square feet. My understanding is we won't do anything with it. But when I went to the transfer station in Kernville yesterday, just with my regular household trash, I asked them because they normally take old worded or something. I asked them about it. They won't take any burning wood. So what do I do with it?
Some of this.
They told me they were just recently ordered not to accept any. No burn 2x4.
That is correct. Yeah, so our transfer stations are not permitted to take the type of burn material that has occurred at your property. That material, when given the green light from Cal OES, can be delivered to our landfill that all of this waste will be buried at, and that's the Vena Sanitary Landfill down in Bakersfield. So that material will have to be handled and transported per Cal OES guidelines, which includes like wrapping it, making sure the constituents are safe, and then we can swap contact information and we can schedule a time with our site engineer to have that delivered. But yeah, our transfer stations they can't technically or regulatorily receive burn material. It's not a proper handling facility. We don't have the resources essentially.
You would deliver something so I can transport it there, or do you actually transport, or I do that?
We do not transport. We can, I'll talk to our system director about potentially using like our franchise hauler, or the resident themselves can deliver it to the landfill.
How much is that gonna cost? Like to bring stuff down there from
So
now?
if a resident brings the material down, it's no charge. And or your burn material. If you are working with a contractor to haul and clean up your property, there will be a gate fee associated with that. And we can provide that as well. But we have had other homes that have burned in Kern County, non-wildfire related. They bring material to our facility in a certain manner. If the resident is transporting and doing the work, there will be no charge.
No charge.
Again,
But we have to haul it, wrap it, do all that kind of stuff, and then deliver it to you,
correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we just toss it on all the other stuff.
You mean put in a trailer covered with a tarp?
So the material itself needs to come in what we consider to be burrito wrapped. I don't know if you guys can get a little bit more to that. But it's a thin plastic line because you can't continually haul that down the road with the possibility of hazardous material ash flying out. So we can again provide guidelines for that. And those are going to be established based on what Cal OES and Cal Recycle needs to see.
Question over here? Which one?
We have a question because we have a creek that runs through the property, but you said that you're not starting work until the end of October. And so, but we also are not supposed to move things. Like we have a structure that burned on the creek, right along the creek. So, what are we supposed to do? Let it.
Great question. So next week, when the watershed mitigation team comes out there, anything that's particularly like high value, high risk like that, it'll be identified in rock guarantee. So they'll put mitigation measures, storm models, compost box, things like that to alleviate or mitigate saturation into the water. And then they'll identify that and bring it to the IMT so we can prioritize that portion.
And are they going to get our information or contact information from this form?
You're correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You guys said you guys weren't doing water wells, you guys weren't messing with it. But once all said and done, are they gonna be tested to see if there's still?
So Cal OES will not test the quality of the water. That's from my understanding that we request the water testing to the county. With Cal OES, we won't test your water. Well,
What about like the big propane?
So it's a good question. So PTSD, if you've got a household propane tank, 200 gallons, large in size, if it wasn't affected by the fire enough to blow the emergency release valve, it's just basically likely, and again, pause, do you own it or is it a lease tank? Oh, wait, okay, all right, so if it wasn't, if PTSD doesn't deem it affected enough by the fire, then it's just would be happy to consider it safe. People were okay, so if the tank was, if they deem it not safe, they will drain it, completely put MT or MT, the X on the side of it. And obviously if the tank was burned enough that it would be emergency valve, the tank would be empty, they would devalve the tank 200 gallons or 5 gallons for 20 pounds, and mark them with the X and MT on it, so.
Can I get clarification on the RVs? We have an RV that was insured with a metal cover over the top. The insurance wants to come get it. Don't touch anything. But they won't touch it until the metal cover is taken off.
So you're in another meeting situation. We can work with you just directly. We speak after this meeting. Once the ROV is submitted, put that under your special notes. Okay, I want you guys to know, every single one of you, every single ROV is we sit down with it, we look over it very carefully. It's not, you're not just a number, your family, your property means something to us as well. Okay, so we sit down, we look at every single ROV, we go through every single thing that you write on it, we provide restrictions, we'll call you if we have questions. It's please notate that on there. We can, because again, we go with the insurance company and say, well, we were planning to remove it already. And typically they say, well, it's wonderful, please just take it. So, because it's cheaper for them, so.
Okay, so we should just list it on there.
Correct. Sure, please, and then, please notate that that's what the insurance company wants to do, and then, or we'll contact you and we'll work it out. Okay?
Speaking about watershed and roads, will the county possibly take this opportunity to maybe upgrade, culverts that run under Botfish Road that wash out just about every winter? And the Clear Creek crossing, because simply cleaning them out doesn't appear to work.
I think currently that we don't have any plans to upgrade them because it doesn't have time to seem to be. We might be thinking hydraulic studies with all these things and then waves, get the brands and do all that. So currently we don't have a plan to upgrade them, but we do have plans to maintain them. The current condition that frankly are not get events or.
So what will residents be expected to do when this does wash out? Because it washes out almost every year. They put a road closure sign, and then those of us that live out there just keep driving the water recedes because the road is broken up. This year, it looks like it's a possibility that the road might totally be gone.
Which road are you thinking of?
Botfish Road at the Clear Creek crossing, so it's north of the town of Pablo, but south of the big black area, like south of Hooverville for sure.
I'm aware of that one. I believe that our staff ended up repairing that one in the last storm or two. If anything, I can tell you is that we've been working with Hanford Weather Services and just keeping track of all the storms that are coming in. And just being prepared as well if we can to actually make sure that's crossing at those times. Obviously, if there's a large event, that's could be a little bit better altogether.
Again, this is about which property where everything else is fine, but there's also a small mobile home on the property, it's 340 square feet. And it's not this high off the ground, and it's actually fine. The fire didn't really hurt the structure at all. But the way they insulated the floor was there was a fiberglass blanket underneath, on the outside of the floor, covered with a plastic sheet that they nailed on. This was done by the factory that built it. That plastic melted and the fiberglass is coming out. If you can do anything with that.
Not all time. We would, sir. Yeah, we would, apologize.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question online. I rent a 288 gallon propane tank and my property was destroyed. When should the owner retrieve their tank?
So it's a lease tank, they can, I'm sure UTSC's already gone through, they can retrieve it wherever they want, it's the, is it a Barrel Gas? I'm not sure what the lease propane companies around here, is it
America.
Gas? Yeah, well, so we actually, we will work, the local, or propane distributor around here and things like that. Are they asking for it right now? It's, I would ask them to ask the owner of the tank to defer, we'll wait a little bit as the property is not safe. And, it may be cabin, there's no propane in there, but, we can work with AmeriGas, directly when we go on the site. We're still a little preliminary, so.
There's another question. There's an issue with the GIS map that is associated with mapping linked to phase one. Essentially, the map is offset approximately 75 feet to the north. As such, the cabin on my property was not identified as a property with a destroyed structure on it that is in need of phase one cleanup. Will this be an issue for phase two?
Great question. We could actually get the address of that as well, so. Understood, yes.
I know who's asking that. It's the same community I'm from. And the problem is that typically there are no addresses. It's all on APN numbers. But when you look at the GIS map that he's talking about, the whole map is shifted. Like my residence as well, that burned to the ground, like it's no longer, it's not where it should.
Those getting somewhere else.
Yeah.
The answer to the question, yes, it will be addressed by DTSC and it will be addressed by phase two. We, our contractors, our consultants will work with the polygons and GIS overlays and find what's off, and then the assessor might reassess the particular APN and whatnot, so we get the right property, the right structure, the right property. So it will be addressed and taken care of. It's just the address right now. So.
Is there any help with the pets that are stranded there still?
What was that, sir?
I have pets that are still stranded over there and all that, and I can't catch them. Is there any help to catch them?
We can connect you with animal control. They've been helping out on the animals that are still residing at residence.
I called them up, they said they're not gonna help, they won't help. Nobody's helping, nobody will come and help me. I thought I called them too, they wouldn't know to come and help me.
Animal services doesn't capture the pets, or I know Nick has said that, so if the animals need to be like captured, they don't do that.
Thanks. Just all the help, you know?
All right, well, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I hope you found this helpful. Again, all of this information will be available on our website, kernpublichealth.com. Please take this contact information down because we are here to help you through the process. So as you're working through the ROE, if you have questions specific to your unique circumstances, please reach out to us. We're happy to help walk through that. And we'll continue working with you all through this process.